Hello, my name is Pedro and I am the creator of the developmentalist stream of thought. Of the different factors that make up the universe, there are some that are more difficult to understand since they are very elusive. Among them, time, perhaps the most enigmatic of all the components. However, in my understanding, space is more complex than time and matter, but I will leave it for another video. In this video, I will deal with time, although briefly, from the perspective of developmentalism, which postulates the existence of multiple time. The multiple time theory refutes one of the strongest theories known, according to physicists, relativity. However, the refutation is in relation to relative time, a specific part of the theory of relativity. I understand that for many it may be nothing more than an error, but it is not, since the multiple time theory is duly justified. I invite you to think about the nature of time from the conception that time is multiple. Relative time is characterized by two fundamental qualities. Said another way, time is a factor and has two main characteristics, slowing down, in its two variants. One refers to when an object is set in motion, it leaves its state of rest. Proposed in the theory of special relativity in 1905. In 1115, in the general theory, he proposes another mode of slowing, the gravitatory field. The other vital quality is that space and time are interwoven. According to the theory, space-time curves due to gravitatory effects, an important observation and differences. In the theory of development by information, space and matter would be those that form a single body. The two ways of slowing time were seen previously. It is important to note that in relativity, time always slows down and never speed up. In the theory of multiple time, there is a form of slowing using another factor, the biological, and consists of the genetics modification made to a mouse by a Spanish scientist Maria Blasco. The mouse named triple mouse through genetic modification allowed the mouse to live longer than a common mouse. Another temporary variable that I describe in my work using an equation that could not be explained from relativeness. It refers to a company that is dedicated to the genetic modification of salmon. But the curious thing is, and where relativist physics would not explain it, this is that the modification makes salmon grow twice as fast as common salmon, which take about 20 years to grow. This question allows us to state that relativity would not be contemplating the existence of other factors that do not react either to speed and gravitatory field. In the theory of multiple time, different factors are recognized that respond to different processes, such as the biological and the psychological. For this reason, in the twin experiment, in which one takes a journey through space at high speeds, since as we move, time slows down, the more it speeds up, the slower time goes. This is what would happen to one of the twins, specifically the one who makes the trip. Now, how would we know? Because of the clock factor, given that the clock would go slower as it accelerated, to the point that if the speed of light was reached, the clock would stop. Suppose that we could take a journey through a wormhole to one of the many universes that exist, according to the multiverses hypothesis, where neither matter nor time exists. Let's suppose that the universe is just a big void. We took to that supposed universe with the old wind-up clock, which was used as an alarm clock. We wind it up and leave it in that universe. I ask, will the clock keep time? According to the relativeness for the case of the twin that moves, as we accelerate, time slows down, and we know it by means of the clock, as I said previously. In the case of the universe in which we leave a clock, but there is no time, the clock should not indicate absolutely anything. However, in multiple time, in the case of the twin who makes the journey, time affects at the same rhythm as which is on Earth, since they are different factors that are handled with different processes. Since temporary variations in biology would not respond to time variations. In the case of the clock that was left in the universe which has no time, the clock while winding and working well, it will count like another on Earth. The reason is because in relativity a false relationship is made between the factors, time and the clock, since clocks are mechanical devices that work by the rope, or by gravity like those of sand, or by current, like them by battery. What it means is that time cannot stop the mechanism of clocks, it cannot stop the rope, the grains of sand that fall down gravity, etc. The only way watches would be impacted by time would be if they were sensitive to the force of time. But such clock does not exist. Finally, regarding this point, a question: what would happen if a clock that works with light was used? This question is answered in my work. The second form of slowing time is more complicated, the gravitatory field. It is used to adjust the time on GPS. Many could say, try more than enough. One way to find out this point with certainty is simply using a simple equation. For this, I'm going to use a mental experiment. Suppose that we have two objects called x1, y, x2. The two objects have the same characteristics, same dimension, weight, etc. Both objects start from the same point, A, and they are directed to a point, B, which is equidistant and will accelerate at the same speed. The particularity is that both must circular through two tunnels. However, as the two objects, their characteristics are exactly the same. Both, when set in motion, must arrive at the same time. The two objects depart. There are many speculations that could be made why object 2 arrived 30 seconds later. But the truth is that turbines were placed in the tunnel that passed object 2 in order to slow down the speed of the object. What I am trying to explain with the experiment, the specific factors used to solve the equation. For the first object, the factors are, first, the object itself, which has the same characteristics as object 2. Second, the distance between point A and B, which is the same as in object 2. Third, the speed of object 1, which is the same as that of object 2. In summary, the factors are for object 1, object, distance equal to x, and speed equal to unspecified x, which results in 1 of 15 seconds of time for the object. For the two object, the factors are the same, plus the wind factor. The added factor is what causes object 2 to slow down in relation to object 1. What should be noted is that in the two equations the time factor is not missing. Since the time factor is the result, an effect of the process or experiment. This question can be applied to waves in the gravitatory field which slow down. If an equation is made with the factors involved, time does not appear as a necessary factor to solve the equation. The conclusion is reached that in the gravitatory field time slows down, when it could be the same field, as in the tunnel where object 2 was found with wind, which is the factor that causes the object to slow down. What I mean is that the slowing down of time in relation to the objects in the gravitative field is a physical and not a temporal phenomenon. Finally, I want to mention the principle that understands the theory of multiple time. It is as follows. In every variation of clock time with respect to one or equity processes, there is taxatively a modification in the process or processes. For this reason, in the theory of multiple time, all the temporary variables are due to the modification of the processes. In fact, we all do it. I mean that, if we want to modify time, in relation to the processes, there is only one way, to modify the processes. In the experiment on objects, if we change the variables, greater size of the objects, lower or greater speeds, it will make us have different times. The necessary question, why I maintain that time is multiple? For the reason that in the theory of multiple time, time is the effect of processes. As there are various processes, multiple times are generated. This video is a synthesis of what is discussed in the theory of development by information. It is the title of the work. Author Pedro Bermejo. For those interested, you can get it on Amazon. Thank you very much for your attention.